All right, guys. So here's what I wanted to do. We like last semester, we talked a little bit about we've been talking about political cartoons, the importance how like they were the original memes, right? Like now you can go on the internet, you can find a meme on anything. You can find funny memes, you can find serious memes, you can find different things. So what happens earlier days when we didn't have no internet, most people, the only place they got the news was from the newspaper, or word of mouth, right? So there's no internet, a lot of, late 1800s, early 1900s, people were, able to read, they're able to interpret these things. And so as you look at these political cartoons, then we do the STAR exam and we kind of, we move on from that. STAR exam is going to have a lot of charts and graphs, right? Like, you're going to look at migration patterns. You're going to look at the chart and be able to determine, hey, it went up or went down, or do the statistics behind it. Whereas when you look at political cartoons, it's a little bit different, right? They don't come out and explicitly tell you what they're trying to say. So you got to be able to make out, what's going on in the picture, and then a lot of times I covered it up here, but at the bottom, there'll be some words that kind of give you the aha, like, hey, this is the point they're trying to make. But the ideal here is when you look at them, I want to look at these political cartoons, look at the individual aspects of the picture, right? And then you can determine what's going on, before you even read the words. Then when you read the words underneath, you're like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. This is what they're trying to tell me, or this is what they're trying to say to me. And so as you look at the picture, just you guys can call out as you feel like it. But what do you see in the picture? Like, so I'm talking, we're going to look at big picture, kind of focus on the smaller details of the picture. So what is one thing that you guys see that stands out the most to you right now?
To me, it looks like there's people at the bottom holding up powerful people, what it seems to be, like the rich.
Tell I don't write on chalk much. So people holding up powerful people?
Yes, sir.
So would you say those people holding them up, or maybe, what would you say about those people? Can you tell a difference in their appearance to these guys?
Working class citizens.
Huh?
Working class citizens.
Yeah, like they look more working class, like they're wearing, like what kind of clothes are they wearing?
Looks like it's a little more ripped up.
Like just looking like normal working clothes. And what kind of clothes are these dudes wearing up here? Right? So difference in clothes. And a lot of times too, when you look at these pictures, guys, you can focus on, there's one central theme, right? And so if you look, like what's the biggest item in the picture? If you're looking at individuals and people.
The rich.
Right? So these guys on the top, the rich guys, are exponentially bigger than these guys right here. So would you say, the analogy is like the big guys are what?
Over the little guys.
Right? So can you make out the words, like what these little parts right here say?
Lumber.
Yeah, so if you look at lumber, linens, and if you look closely, it tells you how much they make a week. So $11 a week for linen guys. You look closer, $6 a week for lumber. So right? And so as you look even more into it, what is one thing that each of these guys have on their stomach?
A bag of money.
Right? And their stomachs are big bags of money, right? And so if you look at them, what's one thing they all have in common? How big are they? Like, girth-wise?
They're pretty big.
Like a lot bigger than, maybe you see any, like, husky people at the bottom?
No, not
Right?
at all.
All right. What else are we looking at here, guys? So if you're looking at the picture, so right here it says Fields Millions, Gold's Millions, Vanderbilt's Millions. You guys remember Vanderbilt? Really? Like what? Remember what?
Was he with the railroad?
Yeah, like oil railroads. Like I think Carnegie was the steel. Vanderbilt. Yeah. So railroads, right? So if you're thinking railroads and you're looking at these guys, one time in history from the things we've studied up until this point, right? What is one thing? If you were to just look at the picture and give it a brief glance, and you guys have already mentioned that you see wealthy people and they're annotated by the cash symbols, and their size are a lot different sizes than the little guys down here. Like, what time period do you think that would be from? You can think about, huh?
Late 1800s.
Late 1800s. Is there a name? Do you remember the name for that? Like, what do we? The what? The Gilded Age, right? So, the Gilded Age. All right. So if you can think of all the things we learned about the Gilded Age, right? Like the common themes, and the different things we discussed. I know it was back in like September, August. It's been a while since we talked about it, right? But so if you can think of the common themes of the Gilded Age, so if you can look at the picture and you can tell me like what theme or like what time period it might be from, a lot of times you can deduct what the cartoon might be trying to say, right? So if you break down the individual parts of the picture, what you see here is you see working class citizens holding up, carrying the load for the rich people, right? And whereas if you look, linen's $11 a week, right? If you look lumber, $6 a week. At a time whenever Vanderbilt was worth millions, right? So if you take $6 a week times 52, what is that, about $3,000 a year, right? $3,500 a year. That's what these guys are making a year, right? You imagine, so, and then you look at somebody like Vanderbilt who's making millions. And so as you look at the picture, look at, at the big picture, and then kind of dig in, and without even having to read the bottom part of the picture, guys, you can determine roughly what's going on, right? So, as we learned about the Gilded Age, the things that we learned about the themes, the ideas that, rich and powerful. Remember what the term we used for these guys was? Robber what? There's a robber.
Robber baron?
Yeah, robber baron. There you go. So you remember robber barons, like rich, elite, people. And really there was only like 5 or 6 of these guys in the entire country. If you look at the population, the way our Constitution was designed and was written, are these guys supposed to have more influence, or these guys right here? What?
The working class people.
Right, because there's more of us, right? So we're the ones that vote. We send people to Congress. We do, we elect the president. So these people right here should have a bigger say. So if you look at the picture, who do you think has a bigger say, or who's more important?
The rich.
Right. Yeah. And have you ever seen the like those old videos from the old days, like the Arab or the Africa and the Middle East, and these people, they carry them on these big poles, and they have these big fancy deals. There's like a whole army of people carrying the king, right? That's kind of what these guys felt they were like. They were kings of industry. Do you see any comparisons between what's going on right here and maybe what's happening in 2021 with big tech? You have Google and you have Facebook and you have all these other companies, right? They probably have more influence with our government right now than we do as American citizens. So as you see this, let me scroll down real quick and you can see the bottom part of the picture. We can read it. Can anybody read that for me?
The protectors of our industries.
Right. So who do you think's the protector of the industry? These guys or those guys? Huh?
The rich.
Right. So as you kind of look at it, if you see these pictures, these type of pictures on the STAR exam, for instance, you can, a lot of times you can tell the time period, right? Just based off the picture. So if you see rich, wealthy people up front and then poor working class or average Americans below them, they're telling you something, And so in your head, you ought to be able to say, hey, we can connect those dots based on the picture. What these guys are wearing, you can determine, these guys are obviously at a higher level than them, right? So you can determine the age and the time period that the picture took place. And then if you determine that time period and that age or the time period, then you can tell me what the picture's about a lot, especially with you guys, because you have an understanding of the Gilded Age. You guys understand what happened in the Gilded Age, right?
Yeah.
And then the crazy thing is, come 1900, Theodore Roosevelt gets elected, and it starts beginning the Progressive Era, right? You guys remember what happened in the Progressive Era, right? All these guys, the big monopolies got broken up. There were 3 amendments to the Constitution passed in a 15-year period, right? I'm 42, and I don't think there's been one amendment passed since in my lifetime, right? If you can understand that, how big of a deal that is. And, then if you go on even from that 15, that first 40 years, there were, 5 or 6 different amendments to the Constitution passed. So it tells you that things were changing. And so what do you think caused that change?
Probably all the big monopolies.
The what?
the
I think
monopolies
the
being
monopolies
too
are
powerful.
powerful, some
Exactly, and then a strong central leader in the president, the executive branch, right? We talked about that with Theodore Roosevelt, you know, and kind of changed new policy. You guys know what that term is called? Like whenever you have a government that actually works for the people? Starts with this pop. It's not something I've covered much. I wouldn't cover it here like populism. Populist, like a populist president. So like if you think of populism as just a term, you probably won't see it on a test from me. But populism is the idea that our government works for the people, right? So whenever they make decisions, they're not making decisions on the biggest donor or who gives them the biggest contribution to their campaign. They're making these decisions based on what the American people want, what we need, right? And so you'll see that. So if you can look at these pictures, look at the big picture before you even read the words. You can break down the picture individually, like, and it'll tell you what it's trying to say. And if you can determine that what it's trying to tell you before you read the words, then odds are when you read the words, the light bulb's going to go off. And it's going to go, okay, I understand, right? And so you're going to see these pictures throughout time. And as we get ready for the STAR exam a little bit more when we get back, we'll I'll make sure that we'll have some more of these kind of built in. Because if you can do this easily, the other graphs and charts and things you're going to be doing, you won't really have to put much thought into them. Just look and do it, right? Just plug and chart. Are there any questions?
I think we got it.
Huh?
I think we got it.
Yeah, you think you got it? So, yeah, so I'll keep incorporating these in as we kind of go along, but just kind of get an idea. Like, so when you look at the picture, break it down to individual parts, right? And so, you know, you can look at people, look at their clothing, what they're wearing. You can also look at the tone of the picture, right? Like if you look, they're like in water. Does that water look calm? Right, it's choppy water, right? You can see it.
rough working.
And that should tell you it's a kind of ominous tone. Like you ever listen to TV and the commercial comes on and it's sad, like especially like those animal shelter ones are like it's really sad, like doo, 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 and then they show a sick dog, which is horrible, right? And then you just want to pull out your credit card and send them money because they kind of pulled your heartstrings, right? Same concept here. Just by looking at the surroundings of the picture, you see choppy waters and stormy. You know, it looks dark and overcast. That should tell us, hey, this is the kind of the point they're trying to get across. Okay. Are there any questions about that? All right, good.